Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, we changing lives out here. Welcome to episode 5 of the Rich by Monday podcast. We are your hosts, Mr. Dorrance Creighton over there. Got his Kevin Samuels filter on.
Hello.
It's all dark in the room. I meant to tell you that last week. Like it was all dark in the room. I was like, yo, low key, looking real Kevin Samuels like.
Are you a high net worth individual? Do you bring value?
Man, yeah, I was
That's not what I asked.
So that's Dorrance. I'm Jared. Welcome to episode 5.
Welcome. Thank you for coming back. I was driving the other day on the way to an appointment, and I put the podcast on. I like to listen and try to see what the audio sounds like. And I watched it and I was like, oh, okay, that was cool. And I was like, when it was over, I was like, I don't have anything else to listen to. I remember I called you like, yo, man, you need to put them in a new episode.
Yeah.
I still had like 30 minutes to drive home. So
the funny thing is when you said that, I was like, but it's like Wednesday. What are you what are you talking about?
No,
like,
you said, I said, yo, man, I need a new podcast. You was like, well, wait till Monday.
Yeah.
Don't tell me to be patient. So what have you learned like over the last 4 or 5 weeks? We've been doing this now. From the first episode of We Don't Want to Do a Podcast, and now this is the 5th episode. What's been some key takeaways for you?
Just the feedback. I'm not talking like we have millions of followers or nothing, but just the interest in the feedback from everyone who just like appreciate hearing a different perspective. Mm-hmm. That's probably been the most surprising thing.
Right.
So, to start from, like you said, like we didn't want to do it, to now it's like, oh, well, people are like, yeah, man, I can't wait till next week. Mm-hmm. And just thinking like, what you're doing isn't really like too crazy. You know what I mean? Like I got a plant behind me, and a piece of it is missing.
Right. Right, you're in a thought bubble.
Yeah. So it's like
these are my thoughts.
For people to be people just really just excited about it is that's been the biggest surprise. So it's just crazy to think like the conversations that we would have regularly is something that people would really listen to and benefit from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've said that a few times. I'm just glad we're more so playing more offense, getting our thoughts out there rather than like looking at something and saying, well, that's not how it works, and being frustrated about by a lot of bull that's out here. So I'm glad we can throw our hat in and just, put our voice out there and project it to the world and, see what happens. Mm-hmm. So it helps some people. I think it helps us. I think I started from there. Like, this would be nice for us.
Yeah, I mean, even to be, I think, and I think we touched on it in the first episode. It was like we were so accustomed to, just being outside. That once you go back inside, it's like, I don't know if I want to go back. You know what I mean? Like just being, because, we were outside early when we were 17, 18 years old. Mm-hmm. And so,
you mean outside, like in the public doing business?
Yeah.
Running a business.
People really taking pictures of you. Yeah.
Really out here promoting
all kinds of stuff. Just being known publicly for doing something versus like doing something and nobody knows you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so I think you just kind of fall into that rhythm and you just enjoy like that bubble of like your comfort zone.
Yeah, for sure.
But
it's so comfortable there.
Yeah. but that's why it probably doesn't help you.
Yeah, we know that. It does get too comfortable.
So,
Um, yeah, I
and
think
just people like, I'm sure it happens to you because when you're like when you're a professional in anything, like it doesn't matter what you do. Like a lot of times your friends and family will like come to you for advice,
mhm,
or just questions about anything that they
right.
hear. And so, like you said, it's good to kind of just, throw our hat in and get that information out there. So even it empowers them because now if they're having discussions with other friends and
Mhm,
family, they can just go ahead and share the information and say, well, some people who I trust or I respect their perspectives. Like you can just hear what he had to say about it.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. It's the last 4 weeks. First of all, it's changed pretty quickly from our first episode, number one. We don't want to do a podcast, which I think was a really good foundation to get that out the way. So we're not going into episode after episode talking about how we don't want to do this and
Yeah.
the drawbacks that might come. So I think that was a good foundation to get over. And now I'm just like, it's part of what I do now. You know, it's a part of my habits, part of my schedule. So, um, I'm enjoying that part, and um, I think it could be even like a part, a little bit of therapy to actually just talk a little bit more about
Hmm.
what you got going or what you working on. So it's been cool.
I mean, I would agree because I'll say like that's something that we used to do a lot,
Right, right. We
and
be on the phone like 2 hours, 3 hours, just talking uh, about different moves and um, different plays, as they say now, plays. Getting
hmm
the bag. Um, so it's not anything different for what we've been doing it, but now we've pressed play. So
I've also learned that it also changes the dynamics of a little bit of like of our friendship because
right.
um, pause just in case,
Here
but
we go. See this the issue. You know what I'm saying? Black man can't be like awesome. Like, look, man, this is how I feel. We this
man,
is my friend. I love you, my brother. Uh, yeah,
pause,
man, I ain't
but
pausing nothing.
but I say that because now it's like if we do end up on the phone or if we do end up around each other, it's like, oh well, I can't I can't talk to you.
We got to say that for the podcast,
Yeah, like we can't we if we get in the conversation, it's like, yo, we gotta save that. We gotta save it for the podcast.
right? I don't even think we have to do that because I think we have so much more to say from so many different angles.
Hmm.
I don't think we'll ever run out. So in other words, when we
Hmm.
just talk normal, like regular, and if we start to press record and we're like, dang, I don't have anything to say, then we can change that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that'll be an issue. So so what we talking about? What we talking about this week? I forgot to see. I got to start my timer on this because we try not to do 2-hour episodes anymore. So
Yeah.
keep them to a brisk
I
hour.
mean, the most obvious thing, of course, is gonna be you know, the Derek Chauvin trial.
Right.
Um, and I don't want to heart, I don't want to heart spend too much time on that because we kind of touched on a lot of that last week. But
Hmm.
how do you feel about the verdict?
Um, I thought it was correct. I think I already moved forward to um or move past the verdict to what type of time they're going to give them. You
Hmm.
know, I'm like, okay, so what are they going to give them? So I moved quickly past the verdict. I expected it to be a guilty verdict.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know on which level, um, but I do know, the legal system has surprises in the past too. So, and to be completely honest, I haven't been following it like day to day, week to week, like I
Mm-hmm.
done things in the past, like last summer, because I felt it just wasn't healthy for me, right? So, the day of, I tuned in to check it out, but I wasn't on
Yeah.
this roller coaster of emotions the whole time.
Well, I
You
think
know,
for me, I mean, I didn't really follow it either, but for me, it was like uh, we saw him basically execute a man on
right?
camera.
Mm-hmm.
What is it to argue about?
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
whether he's found guilty or not, which I'm glad he was found guilty, but whether he was found guilty or not, like we saw him do it,
Right.
you know. So and I
Mm-hmm.
think whether he intended to or not, because that's their whole thing is like, oh well, he didn't intend to. Well, it doesn't matter. Like he leaned into his,
Mm-hmm.
you know, his belief in the ability to be extra
To cross that
aggressive.
line.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And he believed he had a veil of protection of some sort that would allow
Mm-hmm.
him to lean into that.
Yeah.
And so even if it wasn't intentional, he still intentionally leaned into his, you know, quote unquote veil of protection
Mm-hmm.
and his ability to cross the line,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And be comfortable in that space
Exactly.
for
And
sure.
so so now he just got to pay for it, and you could tell he was extremely surprised.
Yeah. He was blinking like, what is going? Not
Yeah.
me. Uh.
So and I was telling my mom because she called me that day and we were kind of talking about it, and I was telling her like, man, if I was him, I'd be snitching on everybody,
Mm,
all the cops, everybody. Like if you sending me to jail for some stuff y'all do all the time,
right.
I'm telling on everybody.
And
Not that I'm a snitch because I'm not a
that's where
snitch,
the that's where
but him,
that's
you know.
it's like give me 40 years. I think the
Yeah,
max is 40.
I don't know. I mean, he's a police officer. He's not gonna
Yeah, I
do.
don't think he's gonna go through
Yeah,
that time now for sure. And it'll probably be in the Fed somewhere, some real comfortable where
nah,
they
he's not gonna be.
make your bed for you,
Yeah, so
give you all the
but
premium meals.
I'm glad I'm just glad that situation is like behind like the family.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So that they can move forward. Cause that's the most important thing. Like these things happen and then you get all these people, all these commentators and all these organizations who get involved and they kind of, you know, overshadow what's actually happening. Like there's a family
hmm
who's grieving. Their
yeah,
names in the news and in the media all the time, but
hmm
the representation of them is somebody else.
yeah, yeah. And often that's somebody else is trying to expand their vision or expand their visibility in front of the camera. Rather, it's a lawyer or a commentator or a social media influencer. It's like it's
Hmm.
just fuel for their content, um, which is a whole nother gross thing that's going on. So uh, definitely shout out to the family. Um, like you said, hopefully they can get some type of uh, relief and move on. So yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully we see some more people are held accountable, and you know
Well,
I
you know
hope
that
that's a normal thing.
that's the magic word of the week, right? You know, LeBron is in trouble.
Accountability.
LeBron is in trouble for you know, for tweeting and deleting about holding another officer accountable. So now the
Mm-hmm.
theme on that side of Twitter is cancel LeBron.
Right. Okay, so it's interesting that this whole cancel culture was, it's up in arms about cancel culture. Then now they want to use cancel culture in their favor,
Hmm.
right? Why are we using cancel? Why are we canceling everything? It's not fair. Why you can't say what I want to say? and then somebody says what they want to say, cancel
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. LeBron is. I feel like LeBron is. I feel like something that plagues LeBron, that plagues him like in many aspects of his life, is
them.
like he wants to be so normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in many ways he feels like he's just normal,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not. Like he's far from being some regular guy. Like there are far too many consequences, not only for um not only for him personally, but business wise. Like he's
But should that stop him from voicing his concerns or his? Because at the end of the day, he's still a citizen, right?
yes,
So
but you agreed. If if you don't want to do that, then don't work with him.
maybe he decided if you don't agree with what I say, then don't work with me.
He
Which is
still
okay
has.
too.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like you have to you can't jump out the window, and then
Mm.
when they come back or press you about something, just be like, oh well, you know, you
Oh
shouldn't
yeah.
be able to do
Well,
that.
well, he shouldn't have
Like
deleted
no,
it. You got to be like, I said what I said.
that too,
You
that
know.
too. But it's even to like even to tweet something like that is this is kind of what we were talking about last episode, and I didn't want to get into this, but but I guess we have to. But this is kind of like what I was talking about last episode, where if we had devised a plan, or if we figured something out, or if we just developed an agenda internally,
Mm-hmm.
um, they would already know what it is.
Yeah, because it would
Because
have
as
been
soon as
tweeted.
something happens, yeah, what he tweets it,
Mm-hmm. Now
and
this is
like
the next thing we need to do.
yeah. So I feel like I feel like we really have to get in a space where we can't let them know what makes us angry. We have to
Mm-hmm.
stop being angry. Like you can grieve and be upset, but not you don't let them see those tears.
Mm-hmm.
You do that on your own time. And that's just me. I could be wrong. I have no problem saying I could be wrong. But I don't believe in letting your enemy see you, in moments of vulnerability.
Someone could argue that it's important for him to amplify his voice because it is so loud, and he can touch more people. Um, it's the whole thing of maybe what he says can create a new ally because LeBron James, the person, and it's just not him; it's whoever else, right?
Hmm.
Whoever else who has any type of large cultural relevance. Um, but I'm of the opinion, I don't think it's I'm not in a position to I don't think I'm in a well, I want to I'll just say it. I don't think I'm in a position to or I want to be in a position to bring allies, right, with what I
Hmm.
say or convince people to be on my side. I don't care if you're on my side. I'm gonna do it anyway, right? So, in the case of a LeBron or whoever who feels like their their mission is to combat racism anywhere they see it, um, they should just do it anyway, without the concern of having someone, amen it or bring on an ally.
No, I agree.
And that type of work, as we talk, I mean, we always talk about that type of work can be done in secret. But
But
that's me,
is it secret though because you're not making it publicly visible, or are you just doing it because it's only secret if, like it might be secret to them because they may not be privy, but if it's
hmm
something you're just doing anyway, that doesn't mean it's a secret. It's just something you
right,
do.
right. Well,
People
some people
people
they
benefit
have to
off of
voice
that.
it. Like, look what I did. It's like the people who might make a contribution to a nonprofit, and then now it's a press release that they gave, $1 million to XYZ charity. There's no need to do that, but
No,
they do it. So um, I don't know. I don't know what that is to have to
it's
want
public
your voice.
relations.
you no, no, no. I was gonna say I don't know what it is for you to the want to voice your concern um publicly if you're doing things privately. You know, I
Mm,
don't you know, I'm just that's why I say now that we have a podcast, it's hard for me to say what I would do because now it's public now. Where
yeah.
in the past, so that's why it's kind of hard for me to say I'd rather be private in my moves, but I'm also on a public platform.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, you could still. I don't think that's. I think you could still do that though. I mean, a
yeah,
great
that's true.
example. A great example is Jay-Z. You know, he's someone who just does things. Now, you often hear about him. That's not by accident.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that whole thing with when DMX passed, like the rumor about him buying the masters, I don't think that was an accident either.
Yeah. Oh, for
You
sure.
know,
You know, I mean, their PR form is on fire. I
yeah.
think a
So I
really
mean,
good example would be Prince. Prince did a lot of things, um, in the background that you just never heard of
hmm
until he passed. Really,
I feel like that's how
all
it
the
should
things he
be.
did.
You know, if you doing something, if you're genuinely doing something from the heart, it doesn't have to be a marketing moment for you.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's my opinion. I know the world today feels different. Everybody wants to. I know I'm old. I'm washed. I'm a grown man. You know, I'm somebody's father. Like I get it, but I just feel like it's not supposed to be that way. Like if you're going through something and vice versa, if either one of us is going through something and I help you or you help me, like I wouldn't want to see that on social media. I wouldn't want to see you with a camera and I'm homeless and you like giving me a ride to like the bus stop. Like I don't want to see that. I'm homeless,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah. 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 It's cringy.
You know, so like
That's
on that
cringy.
level, it's kind of like, well, it's like, what does it really do? And it's like, oh, well, it brings awareness and it shows people, you know, that these things happen and whatever. You know, if you
You
want to
just
do
never
that,
see. That's the thing. You just never know who is going to reach. But I'm just like that type of
who is it?
delivery
Who
is
is it
not for
supposed to?
me.
Who is it supposed to reach? You're helping somebody.
Yeah.
What is the reach?
Well, I mean, more so. Okay, let's take that example. Someone giving money to unhoused is the new term. Unhoused person.
Yeah, you've been saying that.
By the way, so if you're giving somebody some money to them and you record it, someone might be encouraged to replicate it or do the same thing. It might not be on camera. Um, and at the end of the day, if I'm an unhoused person, you give me $100 and you recorded it, I still have $100.
Of
Now
course.
it's still
Well, we don't know that.
why it's my they could have took it back like cut
Yeah, you don't.
and gave my
You don't
100.
know. You don't know that. And the
That's
$100
true.
could be fake.
That's true too.
I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm just saying like the
I
marketing
mean,
is
you don't know.
marketing is real.
You don't know. The internet
Marketing
is
is real.
that's how the internet is.
So that's
Yeah.
just my personal it's my personal feelings is if you're doing something for someone, unless you work in a space where it garners that type of attention. If you're
Mm-hmm.
doing something, like you should just be able to do it without needing nothing in return.
Yeah.
You know, I should be able to go donate clothes. I should be able to go give food and give money and do anything, any type of charitable or philanthropic
Mm-hmm.
act should be able to be done without without a press
Mm-hmm.
release.
Right. Right. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the way things are now is how they've always worked. Because I think about the company that's raising funds, nonprofit company is raising funds, and they say to a person who wants to give money, "Hey, we're gonna have a big check. We have your name on it. We're gonna have pictures." And that person on the other side is into that. That might be part of why they donate. Now, again, um, the organization that needs the funds or needs the donations, they don't care if you want a picture with a big check, and I still need the money.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's just part of the game.
But
It's just
see,
part
but
of the
then
game.
you run the situations where the check is fake.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that
And
that was a situation. You gonna talk about that one?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if I want to I don't know. I mean, it kind of ties
Right.
into some things that we want to touch on, but I don't know.
Right. Right.
I'll say this. Um, there was a guy who made himself well known in the real estate community as an expert, and he launched an online, um, I guess it's a school, or I won't say school, but like education platform where he was just selling information, like selling courses, and a certain rapper donated $1 million to his online education platform in the form of like scholarships, right? Um, if you have an online education form or an online education business, why would you need scholarships? Specifically to the tune of $1 million. If the school is, hey, buy this thing for $59. But
So,
anyway, I
so,
say that to say it came out that it was fake. But yeah,
mm, so it's a publicity stunt.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. So,
just like everything else he does. But I don't want to.
right, I'm not gonna see. This is not a.
That's not what this is.
It's not a. It's not a hit 'em up podcast.
That was episode 3 only, huh?
Let you start going off, uh, which is funny. I enjoy it,
I mean,
but
I just feel like, man, like I don't know. I guess I don't. Maybe I am a hater. I don't know. Am I a hater?
I don't think so. I think some things they need to be called out. Um, yeah, so we just move on. The thing is, all things come to the light, as we know. So
Mm-hmm.
um, there's always an end of the road to those things
Mm-hmm.
that you think you're getting away with something. There's always a road to the end.
Yeah.
So we'll see
So I
how it
mean,
plays out.
and
40
then
years later, join us 40 years
in
later when when everything plays out.
I mean, in spirit of because his whole message is like, because this is something I want to talk to you about. His whole
Mm,
message is like group economics, right? So
right.
centralize all black dollars
Mm-hmm.
and go out and buy real estate or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to get your opinion before I say mine. Like, how do you feel about that form of group economics?
Um, how is marketing now today, or the
Not
actual
necessarily
act of doing it?
not market it, but yeah, but like the practice of group economics. How do you feel about it? You know, well, yeah, I
Um,
guess in relation to how it's marketed or presented.
mm, um, okay, I think it's two parts. Um, there's a part of saying things like group economics, um, um, legacy, uh, financial literacy, or financial freedom, all these different buzzwords to play on people's emotions, right? To pull them into whatever you're selling, um, which I think is whack. But then there's the other side of group economics where you're actually putting money up, um, to buy real estate or what have you, whatever type of investment, right? There's a legitimate investment with someone who actually knows what they're doing. So there's a practical way of doing it that works, and then there's uh, an online marketing position where you act like that's what you're about, but you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think um, I think playing on people's emotions get kind of weak to me, you know, of the whole blacks never have anything, or this is why we never have nothing, that whole thing. And it's like, oh
Mm-hmm.
no, there's multiple examples of people using group economics. It's not a new thing, you know.
No.
Um, so that gets a little draining to hear that over and over, and people fall for it. That's why I kind of stay away from all those buzzwords because
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm dumb though for not using the buzzwords and the hashtags at work to get people to listen.
Yeah. I mean,
So
it's I mean, I kind of feel the same way, but I understand why people feel that they need to think, and or I understand why they feel they need to think that way. Like
Mm-hmm.
that the only way that they can have something is if we literally put our dollars together. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I put mine with yours, and so on, and because they say other cultures do it,
Mm-hmm.
and
My
that's
thing is
true,
like,
but
how do they know? So that's my
because
thing. It's like, if you're not part of a culture or part of, like, how do you know?
well,
And
maybe they don't.
I don't think they do. Like, this is how X, Y, and Z. This is how they do it. How do you know? There's examples of us doing the same thing. So I don't think we have to look outside of our community for examples of what already been done.
Yeah, well, that's true. Now that is definitely true, and I think because the examples of what we identify as success don't look like the people who do that.
Yeah, you talking about the real life example of somebody from your community who's doing what you're saying you want to do.
Yeah,
They don't visually look like what you think they should look like.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. They walk past those people all the time. They
Yeah,
don't
but
give them the time of day.
if you don't have the Migos glasses and what else they
I'm
be
gonna give me some
wearing?
rhinestones on my glasses. I'm not to be washed out here. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going down
it's
that wash lane.
it's true though. Like it's that stuff. That stuff happens all the time, and there's. uh, It's funny because if you actually just Google where these people live, like then you'll figure it out. You'll figure out who they are.
Mm-hmm.
You'll figure out where like the concentration of money is at.
Yeah,
You know what I
it,
mean?
it's
And
it's
then
always in one area.
yeah,
If you want to find people, you know, a group of people at the same time for data, yeah, they're in the same place. But then it's just scattered across the country because it's just so little of us, you
well, yeah,
know?
and in terms of like minorities, yeah, and from that perspective, absolutely. Like there's only even in the nation, I think in South LA, there's like a 6 mile radius where it's like
Mm-hmm.
the largest concentration of black wealth.
All right.
And
A
there's
lot in the
and this
DMV area on
that
the
too.
East Coast.
Even in New York. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's those are people who are doing that, but that comes from their professions.
All right.
You know what I mean? And then having networks of people,
Yeah.
it's not, hey, let's get everybody who lives in this city and let's put
Mm-hmm.
our money together and buy one building.
Right. 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 You're not getting you know, Uncle Bojo at the corner of the liquor store to put in his $20 so you can buy the block.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
it's
these
not. That's not how. Well, one, that's not how real estate funds work. Like not
no,
successful ones.
no.
It's not. You don't. Nah.
I
It
wouldn't
takes
even want that. I
multiple.
wouldn't want money from those people.
But it's
It
the
just takes. Go ahead.
no. I mean, but that's their base. See,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a question. Okay,
But
so
let me
you
let me let me finish that really quick.
okay? Go ahead.
I wouldn't want people. I wouldn't want that the money from those people without them being properly educated. All right. It's not that their money, anyone's too good for their money, but people have to be properly educated on how things work. Because if it doesn't work, it's a scam, right? And the reality is some funds don't work.
A
Some
lot of them
investments
don't
don't
work.
work. So if no one knows how things work, there's always going to be like, see, this is why I can't. This is why I can't work with black people. This is why I can't. This is why I can't support it. Uh, so there has to be some type of education component to teach people how the process works. And this is people who don't know anything about,
Hmm.
investing their funds. Um, for in order for that to properly work, that's why they have parameters. With
But
accredited
they
investors,
don't see it. They don't see it that way. They see
right?
they see those rules as barriers to keep you out. And the people who are
Yeah,
leading them, the people who
yeah.
are leading them, are the ones who are saying, I'm the specialist.
Right.
I'm the master. I'm gonna show you the way. Until they bump their head, and then it's like, well, I didn't know what I was doing. We figuring this out because it's the first time it's being done, and that's
Right.
a lie.
No,
Like
it's
that
not.
is a flat out lie. And if you call that out, you a hater.
That's why like the SEC, like all these different organizations are there to protect people uh, um, from these different things. They're not privy to because they're not educated enough, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to tell somebody that, you know, when you say, it can sound elitist when you say, well, you're not smart enough. That's what they hear. I'm not smart enough to do this. You know, my money is good as anybody else's money. But for me, I think there has to be a process to make sure everybody's on the same education level on how things work before we go
Mm-hmm.
into something. And I think in many cases it's too risky. People don't want to take on the risk, right? Because I think the reality is people don't want to ruin their reputation, right, with their own community, right? They don't want to come out here and be like, you know, I was doing it for X, Y, and Z, and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, so yeah, I think people have to know more than just I have the money to do. I'm
Yeah,
very
but
rich.
see,
You know,
we
I'm like, I'm
can't,
not taking any money.
we can't, I can't, I can't have a Rolex and drive a Rolls Royce if I take 30 years to teach you,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what it would take, right? For the, if the, for these people to become educated and then have the resources, it's not going to take 30 years. That's, I'm being ridiculous, but
Mm-hmm.
it's going to take time because they're going to have to develop some type of skill that will pay them enough money to then save and invest for an extended period of time. And now they have the funds that if they lost 50 grand or they lost $100,000, they would feel it, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. Versus, let me take your $500 today,
It lasts. You know, it lasts a
yeah,
little more.
or your $1,000 today, and let's go buy back the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And to think that these rules, because again, the people who are in front of them are saying these rules are meant to keep you out. They do this kind of stuff all the time, but they don't go to
Mm-hmm.
jail, and that's a lie too. Like, so if we were never able to do anything in this country, not even just as black folks, but minorities, right? So if we were never able to do anything in this country because of the color of our skin, why would these laws exist? Nobody would have ever been arrested for these crimes
Mm-hmm.
prior to us. If we're the first ones to get arrested for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
There would be no
Right.
such thing as white collar crime.
Mm-hmm.
So
Unless
this
they
whole
yeah, unless they arrested the white folks first and they make
That's what I'm
rules.
saying. So, white folks are first in everything, including crime.
Mm-hmm.
they, they did it
Yeah.
before we were because we weren't even allowed to commit crime
Right.
at
All the
one point.
crime syndicates. Oh my goodness.
So for them to say that, like, even that is like, and then people eat it up because they want to believe that they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to keep you out, and in
Well,
some
see,
cases
that's why I talk
they
about
might.
playing on people's emotions. You know, like in fear, right? I think the emotions and fear is what's stoking people to do things that they
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't normally do. You know, because if I'm fearful for what's going on, and you know, you see people getting shot in the street, you see it's on social media, and then somebody pops up and see this is why they don't respect us because we don't have this. This is why we need this, and you're like, you're in a fear state. Your mental state is not right, and you're like, what can I do to make things better? Like little old me from where I'm at, I can give my $500 to this person and feel like I'm making a difference in the community, right? So um, that's tough, you know. That's tough. That's why I'm like playing on people's emotions. It's just not. It's not cool. It's not
Nah,
cool
it's
when
not
people
because
are
it's
making.
but they feel okay about it, right? And so that's why I'm a businessman. I understand the need to make money, and I understand that if somebody is willing to pay you for something that that may not be ethical, but it's illegal, you can make money there, right? I
Right,
get it. We live
right.
in a capitalist nation. I get it. You can live your dreams that way. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't believe in like that level of capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel
Yeah.
like there are far more, there are many other ways for people to make money without having to screw over somebody.
Yeah. Now you're talking about ethics. There's
That's what
there's
I'm
an
saying.
ethical standard that you want to meet, and if what I'm doing to make money doesn't meet an ethical standard, I'm not doing it. I don't care how much money it makes.
Yeah.
Right? That's period.
But
And I mean, it's obvious they don't have that ethical standard.
for some people though, they feel that that's necessary in order to have success, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
like, in order for you to be a successful person, I have to be an asshole. I have to
Right.
screw over people, because the image or the representation I've seen, or the people I've seen that have become successful in the ways that I would like to live, this is how they act, or
And
this,
you know where that representation comes from? Movies,
I have a clue. Yeah.
TVs, TV shows, right? And who acts in movies and TV shows? Actors, right?
Yes.
What is their profession? Acting. Are they a business person? Do they know how business is done? Right? These are actors. Their job is to act. They don't run multi-million-dollar companies. Yet we use their image um, as something that we should aspire to.
Yeah, yeah.
You
a
know,
hundred percent. A
and
hundred
it's just
percent.
like they don't even do it. They're acting it. So we're gonna reenact the actors.
But that's in a world of today, like in the world we live in today, that's beneficial because it helps your marketing.
Yeah.
See, if I come out and I be a dickhead to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but then I say, here's my link. There's gonna be people who are like, well, hey, that's what you got to do. Everybody's not gonna like you, and it has
Yeah.
nothing to do about that. Like,
It's like, no, he's not a great business person because he's an asshole. He's just an asshole that
yeah,
happens to be a
like
business person.
so. So
Yeah.
then that further drives that narrative of, in order for me to be successful on a real level, right? I have to be this way. And the
Mm-hmm.
reality is, no, you can mind your business and treat people with respect until they disrespect you, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and still be, you can still be a successful business person.
Right.
That's why one of the poll questions that so during the week we put up a poll on what you guys would like us to talk about, or if you had any interest in something we'd like to talk about on the podcast. And one of the questions, which came from someone we know, um, was about digital real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so um, the term digital real estate is something that's kind of been blowing up
Right.
um, over the past couple of years because of online, because of e-commerce, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important. One of the things I like to do is kind of peel back the layers and actually see and say what's actually taking place,
Mm-hmm.
because there's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. I don't care what you call it, right?
Right.
So um so the term digital real estate usually is used to reference like taking taking digital products and being able to further develop them to continue to make money for yourself. Now, I guess they reference real estate because it's like a building. If I take a piece of land and I further develop it and improve it, then it'll continue to make me money,
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's up and in good condition. So if I take, um, digital products or any type of IP, intellectual property, I can then basically do the same. I can develop it and improve it, and it can continue to pay me over time.
Mm-hmm.
So a good example would be something like, say you wrote a book and
Mm-hmm.
you sell the book, but then not only do you sell the book, you condense the book down to, say it's like a
Okay. Ebook.
200-page book. You condense it down to 40 pages of notes.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties, but we're back.
Yeah.
So I think we're talking about, I
Digital
can't
real
remember
estate.
exactly where we
We're
left
talking
off,
about.
but yeah,
Yeah.
digital real estate. But basically, I was saying, say you had a book, and then you sell the book, and then not only do you sell the book, but you condense the book down to a smaller number of notes, ebook or another book of a smaller number of notes.
Summary. Mm.
Yeah, and then so you can sell that too,
Okay.
right? So then not only can you do that off the book, you can probably make the book into some type of visual content,
Mm.
or and create merchandise from the book. So basically, you're turning one idea and improving it, right, and developing it into other aspects, or into just different avenues, which creates more ways for you to make money
Mm.
off of this one thing. Now, it doesn't have to be, that's in the form of like if it was like intellectual property. Um, Another way people do it, because it could be like courses and all that kind of stuff too. But another way people do it is like through affiliate links, because it'll allow you to like monetize. Um, One,
Traffic
you
coming
can,
to you.
yeah, you can monetize your following if you have a huge following on social media, and you can monetize like things you do in everyday life. So
Mm.
say you're someone who likes to travel and you like to take photos. Well, you can go to Amazon, you can get an affiliate link, or wherever, and you can now sell that product and get a commission,
Mm.
right? So if you're on a trip, and while you're on a trip, you take a photo, and in the photo you say something along the lines of, wow, this camera is really blah 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 blah. I have a link to
Affiliate
a
link in my
YouTube.
bio.
It could be like a YouTube review that I did on the camera and how I like to use it, and then in the
Mm.
in the review you'll have the link, and you can do that with whatever. And you can
Mm.
also, if you find other websites that will allow you to host, like to post your links, then you then have a store. So someone else can sell the same camera that you're buying or that they're buying from Amazon, but it could be posted on a website with your link.
Mm. That's why I was confused when we posed that question to ask, would you like us to talk about on the podcast? And they said digital real estate. It's basically they co-opted the term real estate
Well,
to
yeah,
use it in a different way,
I wouldn't be able to sell it to you if I couldn't make it sound like something.
right? Sound like more than what it is, or
Yeah.
or attach it to an existing industry that's already robust and existing and large that people
Hmm.
are interested in, right? Because real estate is always this mystical thing, and just attach digital to it. They could have called it internet real estate.
They could just call it hustling, because that's what it is. It's the equivalent to, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying in the negative, like in a negative light. That's just what it
Right.
is. Like we keep
Right.
coming up with all these different things, because just because you discovered something that's new to you doesn't mean you invented it. Like this
You
is
put a new
it's
term on it, yeah.
I guess,
You
but
know,
it's not.
unicorn
This is
racing.
the this is the same thing. What? This is the same
Hey, just
thing
make it
as
up.
when
That's betting
is
on
when
horses. I call it unicorn racing.
that's wild. But
We making things up. I'm trying to be an influencer. You don't want
I
me to,
think
you don't want me to be successful. Click the link in my bio.
I think I think a lot of it has to do with um the age group. And this is what I was gonna ask you earlier. So you remember when we went to Arizona, right? For like that week or whatever. And do you remember what the people in that room looked like?
Um, we went to like a real estate training for that week.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, old and white.
Okay. I'm glad you said that. Because what happens is, see,
Like
these
15
types
years
of
ago. 10
these
years ago.
types of yeah, like 10 years ago. These types of things take place in different places in different cultures, right? And I'll tell you what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm
Um,
following you.
the I hate talking about race, but I guess we have to.
But I'll let you finish.
The the Europeans and like the Asians, they tend to target um the older white people and or the older people, the elderly, right? The people who don't have the time to research or they don't know how to research because there's like a technological barrier, right? But what is the one thing they do have?
They have money because they
Because
worked
they
for 30, 40 years.
yeah, they have retirement accounts, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they bring them out here. They say, "Hey, I'll help you. I'll figure it out.
Let's go
We're
to the
gonna get
local
this done."
Radisson.
That too. Um, this will set your grandkids up. You know, you've got $2 million in retirement funds. My fee is $120,000 for my course.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go buy some real estate or let's go do whatever, right?
Right, right.
And what I noticed in is in our culture, right? We target the youth.
Mm.
Like, did you ever notice that? Like the youth get scammed more than anybody.
Mm.
But seeing
Maybe it's
this,
recent,
there's
you know.
well, there's laws. There's like elderly abuse laws and whatnot.
Right.
But
Well, I'm
I
saying
don't
in
think it is
terms of
recent.
marketing, like marketing to that type of marketing that was 10 years ago, right? The type of marketing where you usually get some tickets in the mail that says you have been invited to this course that's going to teach you how to invest your retirement account into real estate,
Okay,
right?
but wait.
And
I'm gonna
that
let you.
ticket,
I want you to finish. But you
mm,
said something that's in line with what I'm talking about. Okay,
right?
and you said you get a ticket in the mail for real
Yeah,
estate. Okay, who
yeah.
would get a real estate ticket in the
That's
mail?
what I'm about to finish.
A person
The
who
person who gets a ticket, that type of ticket, is usually a homeowner,
okay,
and they target those people because they know, like, well, one, they probably have equity, they probably had a job in order to a secure job in order to attain a mortgage, and you can even see how long they've been there.
hmm
So if they've been there, 20 years, 25 years, that person is probably an older person. Um, so the targeting was really on point, which makes sense. Um, but now the targeting, and it might be those people aren't targeted by the new age people because they know they're gonna see the bullshit coming, right?
maybe yeah.
Um, because you can't just trick somebody that's 55, 60, 65 years old, right? They've been here a while. So maybe that is, to your point, maybe the scam is happening more to young people because this is their first time around. I think about my young cousins that's coming up where it's kids and now they're 18, 19 years old. So and they don't know much about investing. So and they live on their phones. So
hmm
they scroll past the person and say, "This is how you should invest your time." And it's not important to go to school because they're not going to teach you in school because I'm going to teach you. That's all a waste of time. It's easy for them to fall into that. And I have to say, like, if you're 18, 19, go to school. Go to
Yeah,
school and get you. I mean, there's data that shows that you're going to make more money than a person who doesn't have a college degree,
and
right?
not even that. The network as well.
The network is important. The different people you're gonna meet. They're gonna go off to do other things, and that's a resource that you can be a part of long term. Um, yeah, so I mean that's a whole nother thing I don't like to hear is they don't teach you in school, and they basically tell you you shouldn't go to school.
hmm
Now, the student loan issue is an issue we can get into, but my wife went to college without getting any loans and finishing. So there's ways to attain different loans that can put you through school. You really don't have to just go directly to
or different
a
grants.
FAFSA and to or get some type of private school loan. So there's ways to do it. Maybe that should be a whole nother.
Yeah, I wouldn't
I
know.
feel like
I wouldn't know. So don't
I don't know either.
don't ask me.
We're gonna bring somebody on talk about that.
Because I
We
was in
live.
school for like a cool like month and a half, and it was like, you know what? But I
Right.
used to believe. I used to. My problem was, and if my mama's gonna hear this, she's gonna laugh. But my problem was I was always too smart for my own good, right?
Yeah.
So
Problem was.
yeah, what past tense? I don't have that anymore. Maybe I do. I don't know.
Undelivered.
But that was my thing. So it was when it came down to like going to college and stuff. It wasn't that I didn't want it. I didn't want to do it because I did. I just couldn't have. There was no one around who could fully explain it. Like again, because you got to think about the way that I think. I'm a linear
Mm-hmm.
thinker, right? So I got to break it down. I got to see the end, right? I got
Mm-hmm.
to see what I got to see what success looks like on the back end of this thing,
Right.
and then work my way back into my current position.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, oh well, you should go, and I'm like, okay, like that's cool, but like why?
It was go to get a job, and you touched on it. If
Yeah,
they would have said go to build a network, I probably still wouldn't knew what that meant,
no,
but
but it's
but
it's the
it
it's the
probably would
point.
have. Yeah, expand on what you're saying. Expand on what this
Yeah,
is going to bring.
it's the
You
point.
know what? You know what I think that is, because people who go to college, they went to go get jobs, right? So they're telling you to go to college and get a job because this worked for me. Why would I tell you to go to get a job to build your network or expand your network so maybe you can do better in business? And that's not their role. Even the business professors are professors. They usually don't run
Yeah, it's true.
businesses.
I mean, I don't know. I just felt, yeah, I might have been, yeah, I might have been asking the wrong questions, maybe. I don't know, but
I
I
didn't
just
ask
felt
many
like
questions for sure.
I needed to see it, and I didn't see it until I was grown. I didn't really see it until about 5 years ago, like
Mm-hmm.
when probably not even that long ago, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, when I met the guy I was that I work with, Drew,
Mm-hmm.
and he went to USC,
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to peek into the benefits of being a part of that alumni,
Right.
right? Because like a lot of these people only deal with people who went to their same school,
Yep. For sure.
and then when you're talking about,
Or
especially when it
from their
comes to,
same sorority or fraternity.
yeah, and that was something that
I
um,
wouldn't have never been part of fraternity though,
I
anyway.
don't think so either. Because whatever you got to do to get in it, like I wasn't about to do. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't
No,
even do
not
homework. Why would I do hazing? Like that don't even make
no, but
sense.
that's not a diss on anybody in a fraternity or
No,
sorority. I think it's a
not
great
at all.
organization with a lot of history, and they did a lot of work for the community. So
Do they still do? I mean, it's
yes,
it's a lot of like
yes,
I
of
have a lot
course.
of friends who a lot of friends, a lot of people you meet who
Hmm.
who are in fraternities, and like they're good people.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
Even some of like a lot of the people I've met out here um, in real estate, a lot of the female, um, a lot of the apartment owners out here that are female are part of a fraternity.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, a lot of them know each other because they all kind of came up in the same area. They went to the same like medical schools,
Right.
so they know each other. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just I know it
Yeah,
wasn't
of
for me.
course. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know it wasn't for me, but
I think we just loners.
but
Is that what it's coming down to? Like,
we don't have no friends but each other. that's why that's why we friends. Nah, man, I don't know. I don't know.
uh,
I don't
yeah,
know. I ain't gonna say that. I ain't
it's
gonna go
not
that
for
far. I
everyone.
got friends, man. I don't know what you're talking about. I got friends, but like,
I don't think it's about how many friends you got. It's and I think we both the same. Sometimes we just like to be alone. You know, you know, too many people can be too much.
too many,
Put that
yeah, too many
put that on the
variables.
shirt. Don't steal that idea. That's our merch coming out.
it's it's on a podcast, so it's stolen. But
uh,
but yeah, I mean, I think that was what I needed to have communicated at least properly was
yeah,
how it would affect you like later.
right,
I feel like
right.
no one could properly like articulate
Mm,
that. It was always like just go.
yeah, so I think that's what we're trying to do now.
Hmm.
It's not just for getting a job. It's great networking opportunities to expand your base, your knowledge, um, and all these different things. So it's it's not just to get a job, but
No.
if you get a job, 9 out of 10 times you will do well. My thing, you if you get a job for 30 years and buy two houses, 99.9% of the people are going to be okay. You don't
Well,
have to
yeah,
be super extra.
of course. But even that, like that's that's not difficult, but it's not everybody. And I mean, and the data shows like that it's not everybody. But I think
Mhm.
going back to what we were talking about, because our youth get trapped into so many distractions
Why do
of,
you think that is?
well, it's profitable, number one, but um and just things that we just, all these different like obligations in unwritten contracts and agreements that we have with each other that stop us from being like successful as adults, as like
Mm-hmm.
functioning adults.
Now give me an example.
um Man, I don't know if I want to go that like,
So you try to
you
talk
know what I
around it.
mean?
You got to talk
Yeah,
through it.
like I don't want to get all deep on, like, I don't
You
know.
can't talk around it. You got to talk through it.
Because even just in, even beyond that, like I realized like we're not really prepared for like for corporate, like the corporate world. I feel like, all right, we don't really properly prepare our youth to be in these places.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it is by circumstance, some of it though is by choice. Like, again, because of all these different agreements that we have with each other. And then you go in the corporate world and you realize like these people do, you know, all kinds of things to each other every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first time somebody crosses you in the corporate world, you're ready to risk your whole life for it.
Mm-hmm. Because you may have grew up on a different standard of if you cross me, we got to throw hands.
Well, not even just that. If you've probably seen it, even if you didn't, like, like I'll give you an example. All right, I'll give you
Thank
an
you.
example. So, so my first, so when I decided to go back into real estate, on the commercial side, I knew that there was a huge, like, there's a huge learning curve, right? So, and just to be able to make yourself profitable as an agent on the commercial side takes takes time, which because you've done it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you go into it thinking and knowing pretty much that you're not going to get paid for at least a year,
Right.
because you have to be able to make contacts with people and develop
Mm-hmm.
relationships. No one's going to trust you with $1 million or millions of dollars of real estate just because you're a nice guy. Like,
Right.
you have to be able to develop that relationship and whatnot. So,
Something that got me through that before you move on is um, when I was first started making calls in commercial real estate, I said to myself, I read this. It said, don't tie yourself to the result. And that's the only
mhm.
thing I had going, because we want things so quickly. Um, I want to throw that in there while you talked about that.
No, it's true. Because I do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I because again, I like to think with the end in mind. So,
Mm-hmm.
I be thinking like, Rolex.
It's got crack.
Yeah,
Lamborghinis,
Lamborghini, Rolex.
cars, watches.
So I'm okay with the time frame, but I'm just thinking about, I'm thinking about the thing.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, so we were doing that, so I'm every day 150 calls, um, building relationships, connecting with people. Um, I mean, even to this day, I've probably met with, I've called thousands, tens of thousands of owners. I've met with hundreds of them. Fortunately, a lot of them were black in the area that I work. But I ended up finding a guy who was kind of on the fence of selling his property. And so, long story short, we present him with an offer and he accepts, right? So this
Mm-hmm.
is like month 10, no, month 9,
Right.
right? So, and the baby was, yeah, it was like month 9 because the baby
Mm-hmm.
was coming.
Right.
So so anyway, he accepts. So everything is fine. So
Mm-hmm.
we go into the office the next day, drop all the paperwork, get everything done, and try to reach out to him, and we can't get a hold of him.
Mm-hmm.
And so we couldn't get a hold of him that whole day.
He ghosted you.
Yeah. So the next day, same thing happens. Right? Can't get a
Mm-hmm.
hold of him. But then the next day, I call him, and immediately he sends me a text
Mm-hmm.
with a phone number, and it says, "Call this guy."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I'm
Here
like,
we
"Why
go.
do I need to? Why do I need to call this guy?"
Here we go.
Right? And this guy ended up being another broker, which
Mm.
was a friend of his who he had a relationship with. So when he agreed to the offer, which he didn't tell us he had a friend who was in real estate, I don't think he did it intentionally, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Right.
Um, he went to him and said, "Hey, these guys want to buy my building. Here you go."
Mm.
Now, the reason why that's upsetting is because in real estate, there's two sides to the transaction. There's the buy side and the sell side. Um, for the people listening, right? So there's a buying broker and a selling broker. And in commercial, and many times the broker can do both sides, which means you get a larger
Mm.
portion of you get the large, or you get the whole commission, pretty much. Um,
I'll do
but
double
when you,
lending or dual
yeah,
dual agency.
but when you sneak in another broker, right? And I didn't have the
That
buyer.
that cuts your check in half.
Well, it cut me out the deal because I didn't have the buyer.
Mm.
He was my client. I
Right.
was, you know what I mean? I was a listing agent.
Right.
So when he turned it over to his guy, that cuts me out of the deal completely.
Mm. Right.
You know what I mean? And so what his buddy did was, because again, this is business, right?
So
This is
who had the
business.
buyer?
I'll get to that.
Mm.
So this is business. This is how business operates, and this is why uh, on this podcast we talk a lot about people who don't do business, and you can tell because they don't go through these types of things, and I can tell they don't because they don't do business.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I just talked in a circle, but it's the truth. Like business is very ruthless, especially when it comes to making a lot of money, and you can tell who's been in these situations before and who hasn't. So
Yeah,
so
they
anyway,
have a certain look on their face. They not as jolly and green.
yeah, no. So so
Yeah.
so he yeah, so he cut me out of the deal, right? And then his broker, like the guy he gave the deal to, or he gave my deal to, is like, screw these guys, because that happens all the time,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
We don't have nothing on paper yet. I don't care who they are. I don't know who they are. I've never met them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're real.
It's just some guy on the phone.
Exactly.
Some
Screw
guy I
these
met
guys.
a few times.
I'm gonna list the property. So now I went from off market to now this is going on the market, and now the whole entire world is going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever price we agreed upon doesn't matter because now you're going to have hundreds of thousands of people looking at the listing. Um, so anyway, so that happens. So I call the guy. He acts like he's the biggest, whatever in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know you guys. Screw you guys. David didn't tell me nothing. Oh, I shouldn't have said his name. He didn't tell me nothing. So we had to get through that. And at that moment, it wasn't that I was ready to quit.
Mm-hmm.
I was just so upset that I couldn't function the way that I needed to.
Right. Right.
Because
You
the
start
whole time,
harping over it over and over and over.
because the whole time I'm thinking, how am I gonna let him play me like that?
Mm. Yeah.
Because I wouldn't let you do that nowhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from where we come from, and that's not even saying like we grew up in like a harsh neighborhood or nothing. It's just culturally you don't let, like, you can't be outside and let somebody do that to you,
Mm-hmm.
because he robbed me essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a lot of money. So,
Right.
and I needed it because I was I was having a baby in 2 months.
Right.
So I was so upset though at the way it all played out, that I couldn't, I wasn't the same. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, I wasn't the same.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, Drew, who's he's somebody who's been through that numerous times,
Right.
and he had a guy who needed to buy something, and so that ended up being the buyer,
Mm.
right? And he was cool enough to still write me down as like an associated agent on the contract.
Right. Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
he stepped in, saved the day,
Mm-hmm.
um, dealt with the broker to
Mm-hmm.
make it, to make everything nice and let them know we're willing to make this work.
Right.
And we ended up closing the deal,
Right.
and so I
Mm-hmm.
got paid. Now, what I got paid was 25% of what it would have been,
Right.
but it's better than nothing. And my emotions in that moment got the best of me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so what I'm trying to, what I brought that up to say, because of the things that, because of these agreements and the things that we believe in, as a youth, culturally, right? These things stopped me from being what I needed to be in the heat of the moment,
Mm-hmm.
because we've seen people, we've seen worse happen to people for things that were, you know, less impactful in a way,
Yeah.
right?
So
And
so
so that's
you
what I'm
almost
trying to
didn't know
say.
um how to function. You didn't have any base on how business function when it gets ugly
Yeah,
and how you should respond to that,
exactly.
right? Um, yeah, it sucks. we don't have
But that's what I'm
it's
saying.
tough.
Like
We
I
don't
think.
have nothing to draw from, and you the only way to go through that is to go through it.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe that's why we are, some of the few people who are first through the door to where we can, take those bumps, um, and work in business at a higher level where the stakes are higher and the lows are lower,
Hmm.
and um, you know, be able to come out on the other side of that and show somebody how to navigate through it. So yeah, because there's nobody. I mean, I can't think of anybody who could have helped in that situation to be like,
No,
well, it's just how business is. Well, they do say that. Well, that's how
no,
business
no.
goes.
But that's what
I
Drew
love,
said. It didn't
yeah,
help. But that's what I'm saying. It didn't
yeah.
help that
You have to
something
go
like that
through it.
happens. Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that happens, and you're like, man, I'm missing out on, on a high 5-digit payday, and it's
right,
just like,
right.
oh, that happens.
Yeah, it's like no, not to me,
Yeah, like no, exactly. It's like
not
no,
to
that
me.
doesn't happen.
Nah.
I can't be the. How am I supposed to go home to my family and say this just happens?
Right. Oh
And
man,
so
imagine the guy who's going home or the girl is going home and say, "You let them do that to you? I
that's
wouldn't
what
let
I'm.
them do that
Thank
to
you.
me." Nah,
Yes,
nah,
yes.
nah. It got to be something for that.
So it was a lot of that, and it caused me to be. I was in like a slump for like a good, pretty much during that whole time during
Right.
escrow. So luckily I was in escrow,
Mm-hmm.
but during that whole time, and on the back end of it, and this is why I have so much respect, for Drew, because he's someone
Mm-hmm.
who really came from nothing, and he's the most disciplined person that I ever met in my life. The guy's a machine.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But he was like, he kind of talked me through it. Like, man, this happened to
Mm-hmm.
me at this time, and da, da, da,
Right.
and then seeing what he had to kind of go through in order to make it work the way he
Mm-hmm.
needed it to, let me know that it wasn't that bad.
Right. Right.
And so that's what I mean when I say we're not preparing our youth for that, because when we're growing up, everything is, I'm not gonna let you do that to me.
Mm-hmm.
We're not thinking on the back end of, you know, well, okay, you can do that, but I'm gonna get around this.
There's no need to jump out the window because
Yeah,
there'll be another opportunity.
there's another opportunity.
That's
Absolutely.
a learning lesson that you can grow from.
And
Oh.
that was rough though. That was definitely so, business
Mm-hmm.
business itself is rough. It's not easy to deal with people. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to sell stuff to people, like, you know what I mean? But the business of it isn't easy. Like if you out here selling somebody something and it's not, going back to like digital real estate, if you just
Mm-hmm.
took a bunch of information on Google and packaged it up and sold it, okay, you made some money, but you run a high chance of somebody running up on you and punching you
Mm-hmm.
in the face once they figure out what they paid for.
Mm. They figure out it has no value.
Yeah, because I mean that happens. That happens to a few. They may not talk about it, but it ends up
Mm-hmm.
on TMZ and World Star. It's happened before, where you see these Instagram gurus in the stock market and all this other stuff. The videos come out of them being like punched on.
Yeah, that's crazy. Post that link in our bio so we can check it out.
Nah,
And,
man, I ain't gonna.
just play. Uh,
So I mean,
talk about
it's that kind of stuff though that I think we need to work on.
So you mentioned high payouts, high six-figure payouts. What do you think about Biden's new tax plan?
Uh, um, I think it's ridiculous. That's what I think. Um, but we have to be careful, right? And we have to
It's like a hard shift too.
well, we gotta make sure we talk about this with proper context, because there's
Yeah.
any like the subject of taxes is a very sensitive subject. But I think that's more so because of the
Mm-hmm.
disproportions um, in wealth that exist today, which were largely caused by the government.
Yeah.
But then here they are trying to clean it up and blaming people who made money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so initially, so for those who don't know what capital gains tax is, like capital gains tax is if you make a lot of money, basically, if you make over a certain amount of money, right, over a certain threshold within 12 months, you have to pay capital gains. There's short term and there's long term. Um, so I believe the rate, and I haven't read through the whole plan or the whole document or whatever, but I have seen some takeaways and some highlights. But I know that before it was like 20%. And I know they're proposing to raise it to like 39%. Plus, since we live in California, you have Obamacare, which is like 3.6 or 3.8%. So I mean, you're talking over 40%.
Yeah. I like to read the whole package and see um, if I'm getting that money.
But the whole
But
thing is like, where does it go?
that's my biggest thing. Like, where does the money go? Where's it? Like, how can we account for it? Because if it's they break it off a little bit for reparations. I know people don't like that word, but it
Mm-hmm.
comes in different forms. Um, if you want to, um, just like you said, a lot of people made a lot of money over generations, where people couldn't be a part of it. The government kept them out.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's certain policies um, in the tax where that fund is going to go, and it's going to give any money to that movement, I'm with it. My main
But
thing
that's not the
is,
case, though. You know that's not the case.
well,
So
I
like,
don't know. I have to throw something else in there.
like the
I got
government
to
is
throw a
not.
hope in there.
That's not what they do. You know what I mean? The governments
Yeah.
don't create opportunities; they regulate them. So I mean, it's you're taking 20% more money, and to give someone an idea, I mean, it wouldn't. It's hard to even talk about it because the response is always, well, if you're at the higher end of that scale anyway, it doesn't matter. You make enough money to pay or
Mhm.
whatever. But I think what also gets lost in this in these messages is that this somehow will solve the problem of the disproportions in wealth. But I
Uh,
think what people really need to understand is that the people that you want to pay taxes are not going to pay taxes because they don't earn money the same way you do. Doesn't matter how much you raise their taxes. All they're doing is coming for your money when they do that.
Yeah, for sure.
If if I'm second and third generation business, I'm not taking a salary.
Mm-hmm.
There's no salary. I'm not an employee. I live off dividends and equity and distributions. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like most business owners don't make any money at all on paper. They make $0,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the tax code allows them to do that. Not, it's not cheating because they have money. The tax code is written that way. If there's a problem that needs to be solved, it would be rewriting the tax code.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that's not going to happen.
You got to start from the beginning.
So I
You
feel
talking
like
about dismantling systems that have been here so long,
that's what I'm saying.
so
So
long.
so let me ask you a question. Do you feel like you have a better chance at figuring it out and using it to your advantage to then go in and fight the battles, or trying to fight the battles without doing any of that?
I think the first option is perfect, right? I do want to learn the information so I can utilize it for myself, right?
Hmm.
But I can't discount the um, the second and third generation of income that I missed out on. Um, I can't just act like that didn't happen and just and replace it with education of how to do it like they do it.
Hmm.
That's not enough, right? It's not enough.
I get that because I feel the
so
same way.
so I'm just
I'm I,
like I'm like it has to be the plan has to be expanded on. I don't want to just I don't want I don't want to just a whack dripped out handout. Like everything has to be different. You got to revamp everything. Everything different.
delete all this shit.
Yeah, all of it is wrong, right? It's like, okay, um, all right, keep your portion, right? That's fine. But it's it's like if you play Monopoly and everyone gets their $1,500 and they get to go around the board 10 times before you start, and then they give you a
Right.
$1,200 stimulus and say, all right, now it's your turn to roll.
I get that.
It's
I
like
get that
it's like
100%. I understand like that perspective. What I'm saying is though, is that like that doesn't change the fact that someone can not pay taxes because they don't earn. Just because you don't earn money doesn't mean you don't have money.
right, right. It's
You know
like,
what I mean?
yeah, because they're not gonna get any money that way.
So
There's so many different ways to get around it.
when a politician stands up and says we're going to tax the rich, you can't. They don't make money.
Well,
I know that sounds crazy, but you
well
can't.
we know that that's okay. This is another thing, right? That we have to touch on. When a politician says it, this is what we need to do. It's to get the votes of the people who would automatically attach themselves to that movement. It's not so much to revamp everything. It's I need your vote this cycle.
See that we
You
talking about
know?
two different things, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree.
I was expanding on that.
Yeah, and I agree with you that we do need to revamp things. You know what I'm saying? But in the terms of his tax bill and the support it's going to receive, because of course it's higher
Mm,
taxes for people who make a lot of money.
right.
But again, there are vehicles written within the tax code to completely avoid this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in like just like in commercial real estate, we have this thing called the 1031 exchange,
Mm-hmm.
where if I buy a property and I've held it for X amount of years and I decide to sell it, I would have to pay capital gains. But Section 1031 of the tax code allows me to take that money, put it into a third party escrow account known as the accommodator, right? That way, the money never comes to me, and it never becomes a taxable event. And as long as I use that money to buy another property of like
Mm-hmm.
kind that is of
Right.
greater or equal value, I completely avoid paying capital gains taxes
Mm-hmm.
and depreciation and recapture.
Mm-hmm.
You can also do the same with art. This is why art and crypto and all that is all money laundering, right? I can go buy a painting for $30 million, and then 10 years goes by and now it's worth 100 million. I can sell it, right? I can sell the painting, but I have it stored in a free port, which is an area of no tax.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's all these things exist. You know what I mean? Like, to for people to, I don't want to say avoid, but defer paying taxes. So even if you can increase the tax rate all you want, the only the only people that, like, the tax rate in the way that is written like that, it only applies to like the working class.
Yeah.
If I'm a business owner, I can choose how I get paid. I can get paid in dividends. I can take a portion in salary and the rest in dividends. I can take distributions in, quarterly, and I can offset my earnings with interest and depreciation. Like, there's America is for people to own a business. That's what
So
America
click
is
the link in our
for.
bio, and we're going to show you how to start a business so you can avoid taxes.
No, we finna go to jail. Every episode, man. We got canceled last episode.
Uh,
This the
no, but
we going to
that
jail
is a thing.
episode.
There's a lot of people who make a lot of income, earned income on the job, and they have huge tax bill because they don't have businesses to write off
Exactly.
anything.
Exactly.
Um, so yeah, that is a thing.
So my position isn't that people shouldn't be taxed. That's not what we're saying. It's the way that they're telling you it's gonna happen is not how it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
And my
so
position is, if it does happen that way, what do I get out of it? Because because the reality is, people have to act their paycheck, right, or act their income,
hmm
right? So uh, if you capping for people who billionaires who gonna get taxed, and you at Wiener Schnitzels, like, yo, chill. You need to be figuring out. You need to figure out what you can get from this. Not to diss anybody who works in retail or in fast food, right? It's a great job, but it's like, you remember something the plumber. It was like, who was it? It was a Republican long time ago.
nah.
Something Bill Joe the plumber or something. And he was one of the things like, I don't want my taxes to go up. I think it's unfair for business owners and da-da-da. This happens every cycle. They didn't come to
Yeah.
find out, like, he didn't even have a job or a business. He didn't have a job or a business. Like, why are you waving the flag for something that doesn't even pertain to you? Right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of that going on. And I think that's just, it's wrapped up in whatever your politics are. So if
Well, of
if
course,
you're
yeah.
if it's like, never raise taxes ever, um, whatever, just roll out whatever it is. Um, you just cape for that. You waving your white flag
hmm
or your flag in forward or against whatever that is, because that's just what your team is running on.
hmm
And my position is like, stay in your own lane. You know, stay in your own lane. You need to figure out what you can get from these different politicians, what you can hold them to. Now, where they do it or not is a whole nother thing. And yeah, that's a whole nother thing. And they may or
yeah.
may not, but
I mean, but I,
uh,
I don't think I don't think there's nothing wrong in, if you believe something to be right, then you believe it.
yeah.
All have we all have we all have the right to that, to have an opinion and
Hmm.
to have our own beliefs, right? Um, if you're someone who doesn't have a job and doesn't have a business, but you feel like it's not right to tax a business, I think you should be entitled to that.
Yeah, you
That
can.
doesn't mean we have to agree to it, but I feel like you should be entitled to, like, to those thoughts.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you
you
can.
know, that's why my whole thing is, I'm fine with I'm fine with like I'm fine with all of that. I just don't want I hate seeing people be misled. That bothers me more than anything, is seeing people get lied to. And because I know it's easier to lie to people because they're not going to go to Google and look it up,
Right. Right.
right? So um, to think that that will solve the problem, like it's not going to solve a problem. Like
Mm-hmm.
the tax law is not changing. You can
No.
change
No.
some numbers around, but you're not changing the tax law. And the
Mm-hmm.
tax law still allows for people who have businesses and own property to defer taxes until they die.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know what happens when they die? Their kids inherit them and get a step up in basis. And guess what happens to the taxes? Somehow they disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So that uh, a capital gains tax, okay, it sucks. Mainly for people who made a lot of money this year on Dogecoin and all that other stuff. Because he's talking about taxing crypto at 80%,
Mm-hmm.
or Janet Yellen is actually. So it sucks for those people,
Just trying to
right?
crush it. They're trying to ruin it.
But this is why it's important to have property in equity in something, because you can always roll over that equity tax free.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just have a bunch of cash, which a lot of people who look like us that are seen as successful, they have a bunch of cash. There's huge tax implications that come with that. Not to mention
Mm-hmm.
inflation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna suck for those people. But for people who've had money or who've had equity in properties or in businesses for decades and generations, it doesn't do
Mm-hmm.
anything. Like it's
Yeah.
it's it's a nice headline.
Yeah.
But if I've got hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in real estate right now, I'll always have more without paying taxes because I can always exchange it to another property, and I can always just write off the interest and depreciation, which will probably be greater than the amount of money I make. So I make a loss. I show on paper that I operate at a loss.
Yeah.
I'm not paying taxes. So
Yeah.
like if you want to change something, you have to change the tax code. You can't just raise taxes. That only raises the taxes for middle class. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all it does. They just coming for more of your money. If you doing all right, they coming for your money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to really get into it. I mean, we kind of gave a lot of our opinions.
Yeah, I definitely gave my
I
opinion.
guess like an umbrella opinion of what you think about taxes and how it really works. Um, yeah, so taxes not that exciting for most people. So if you're still with us,
By the way, I am not a tax professional.
right,
We got to throw that
right,
disclaimer out so we don't go
yeah,
to
I
jail.
just like to I realize that a lot of these laws won't change, but I like to give a different perspective on how people really do approach some of these things
Hmm.
and how they hope things will play out. Um, but there's always a way. We know there's always a way to continue to do business how you always done it.
Hmm.
And I'll go back to if everything is not completely disassembled and put back together, um, we're gonna be doing the same thing.
So
you know.
okay. So how do you feel about there's I'm sure you've seen an article about like that plot of land down here in Manhattan Beach that was
Mm-hmm.
once belonged to a black family
Right.
called Bruce's Beach,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, have a plaque out there.
So so how do you feel about that situation?
Um, um, I feel like how many more situations are like that didn't get any light, right?
Hmm.
Um, and the family fought to have that plaque put on that beach in a little park
Hmm.
area, and it took years, many years, to do that. This is before. Actually, they still didn't give the property back. They just put a plaque there. Um, it's even more a slap in the face.
Yeah,
Let's stamp something that used to be yours. And there's tons of different stories like that.
it's all
That's
of
why.
it.
Yeah, that's why I'm like,
Like,
there has to be like you talk about reparations. I'm talking about
uh,
generations of compound interest that we couldn't be part of investing. Right?
mhm.
You can't just wipe that away. Like that happened. Like it has to be righted. So when you're talking about like, money getting dished out, yeah, give me some money. Give us some money. You know, allow the kids to go to college for free. You know, um, whatever. Like let's if you don't want it to be cash, because I think cash could be problematic in some
It will
cases,
be. It will be
but
problematic.
get creative. Get creative. You know, why should I have to figure out how you should pay me back for not being able to take advantage of of the real estate market? I mean, and this is not like 200 years ago. This is like
No, it's like 40
my
years ago.
grandparents. You
Yeah.
know, like my grandparents weren't allowed to buy real
Hmm.
estate, right? That type of thing. Um, some did, which I have a great story. It's a great story in Cory Booker's book about that. And it just goes back to, okay, they won't let us, but we're going to do it anyway, right?
Hmm.
In Cory Booker's book, he's a senator for Newark, and he talked about how his his parents were weren't allowed to. They were well to do. They had I believe his father worked in tech, or not tech, but um what did everybody work? Um, I guess it was tech back then, but it was what's the printers, the big large printers that are in
You talking about like
um
Xerox or something?
yeah, like Xerox. He
Xerox,
worked for like
yo,
Xerox or something like that,
Xerox put on so
or
many black
IBM.
folks.
Yeah, it was one of
IBM, yeah.
those, right?
But it might have been IBM if it was over there. But Xerox
Yeah,
put on so many black folks in South LA.
so many. So,
So
anyways,
many black folks.
so they work for that type of company, right? So they making money, making good money, and they want to move out of what you would consider a traditional black neighborhood, right?
Hmm.
Which is a made up thing, because it's only all black because they made you stay there.
Yeah, you couldn't go
So
nowhere else.
they want to go to a better neighborhood, and it's not that it's better because there's not blacks there, but they literally have better funding for like schools, right?
Hmm.
Because the real estate uh, the real estate taxes paid for the schooling. So if you have more people paying real estate taxes in a certain area, schools are better funded, right? Just simple things. So of course they want to send their kids to a better school. So anyways, um, they go look at a house in a neighborhood that they really like, with a realtor, um, and they look at the house. And once they get there and they see them, they say the property is no longer available. It's sold. They're like, oh, okay, this keeps happening, right? This is like the second or third time this happened. So they end up um, partnering with a group at that time, a nonprofit group that would do these sting operations where they would have a white family go into that same neighborhood or that same house that you're interested in and try to put an offer. So they brought the white family in to make the offer, not knowing that it was going to be on behalf of Cory Booker's family or his
Mm-hmm.
parents. So, um, of course, the white couple goes in and say, "We're interested in the house. Um, we really love it. Can we make an offer?" Yes, it's available. The same house that they said was not available the day before. They make an offer on the property. Um, Actually, no, they don't make an offer on the property. They say, "Okay, great. We're going to meet you at your office and write the paperwork." Okay, so they make an appointment to go talk to them, the realtor, at the office, and Cory Booker's family, the black people, show up,
Mm-hmm.
and with their agent and with the nonprofit, and said, you denied them to buy his property, and um, they signed the paperwork and everything. Oh, that's what happened. They signed the paperwork um, and everything, and then they revealed the black folks as people who
Mm.
actually bought it. And the real estate agent jumps up out his chair and he tries to swing at the person who was working on behalf of his family. And he says, "You don't know what this is going to do. You're going to ruin the neighborhood, and you're going to ruin my reputation by allowing them to move in." And um, so, long story short, they end up moving in. But that was a thing, right? If I was black and I moved to a neighborhood, I'm going to lower the values just because I'm
Just
black and I'm
because you're
there,
there. Yeah.
right? So this is a thing. Um, so I bring that up to say, even back then when there were so many um, barriers in the buying real estate, particularly at that time, not only from the government but from the real estate agents at that time. They didn't want you to go into certain neighborhoods and buy certain neighborhoods. They did it anyway, right? They found a way.
Mm-hmm.
So we know it's still possible. Um, that's why when people say, they never let us do, there's always an example of that, right? So I'm not going to act like everybody could have done that because, but it is possible. Um, even the term realtor, right? That term realtor wasn't. If you were black and you were in real estate, you weren't able to use that term. You weren't able to use it because they didn't accept black people into the association.
The association. Wow. I didn't
So
know that. I didn't know that at all.
yeah, so black people actually made up their own associate called the realist,
Mm.
um, which was a black real estate association. Which is why I don't use realtor to today. I say, um, I'm a real estate broker
Yeah.
or I'm a real estate agent. Um, but yeah, it's just there's a lot of history behind why wealth couldn't be accumulated in black, brown communities, Asian communities, everyone. They didn't want
Mm-hmm.
anyone in the neighborhoods. So it's not just black people. Um, so that's what I think about that, right? I think about so many the Bruce's Beach, go back to Bruce's Beach, so many different families that went through that. And because for whatever reason they might not have, you know, organizations in place or didn't know about the organizations, they could have given up, or they could have just um, had their land stolen. In this case, it was stolen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, really quick, there's another situation that happened right in Palm Springs. The main drag in Palm Springs used to be all black people who lived. It was a black neighborhood at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they called it slum because black people lived there, and they made laws to where they had to move out of those areas, and they end up moving to either on the outskirts of Palm Springs or on neighboring cities. So, I mean, there's examples of that everywhere. And so when I talk about reparations, I'm not talking about like a free handout. I'm talking about like um, fixing decades of um, of, of of blocking people from just the rights that every other citizen had.
Just
You
being
know,
able to
so
participate.
yeah, that's like I don't want to have. I want to be in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't allowed to be in the game for 40 years, 80 years, 100 years, like I'm not able to reap some of the rewards as somebody who could have, right? I want to be the person they trying to tax, as third or fourth generation to be like,
Tax me.
you know what I'm saying? I want to be in the conversation like, man, I don't want to pay these taxes. Me either, Gerald. Me either, Jim. Like it's not that I'm mad that people are rich or wealthy. Um, I'm mad that we couldn't participate. Right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
whole different thing. It's not that we weren't capable, like you couldn't participate openly and freely. You have to sneak it, right? And somebody did. Some people could. Some people couldn't. For whatever reason. So, um, yeah, it's it's a trip. It's a
I
full
mean,
trip.
even but so
What
I
What do
brought
you
that
think?
up though. I brought that up because
Right, it went into a whole story. That must have just
no,
been in
but
my
that's
head.
but all that is needed though. Because even when and I'm and just I think the same thing happened to your parents. But I remember when my parents bought their first house in
Hmm.
Rialto, I was like 8, and I remember the neighbors telling the realtor like you're ruining the neighborhood, and they moved.
Mm.
And this is in like
Yes.
'95.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it happened to my parents, and it was a little bit different, but in 2000, 2001. Um, well, it was a little bit different, but the realtor told them, I'll tell that story another day. But they basically told them, if you see a house like this, you just keep on driving because you can't afford
And
it.
it's crazy. Like
you know, I
that's.
mean, and I mean, to this day, I mean, they've been there over 20 years now. So
Hmm.
I'll probably tell that full story another day because we're
Yeah, I mean
definitely going
that's
overtime again.
that, but it's necessary. Like it's necessary to, stuff like that needs to get out because again, I believe in capitalism, right? But not at the expense of others. So,
Right.
um, so sure, there needs to be, um, there absolutely needs to be some form of change. And my thing is like I'm not mad. I'm not mad at people specifically. Like I'm not mad at Jeff Bezos for having money.
Mm-hmm.
Like my issue is not with Jeff Bezos.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes what we do, because of course we allow outside sources to give us these examples of things to hate, is we point that energy in the wrong direction
Yeah, for sure.
and focus on specific people. And
Mm-hmm.
and in this country, um, in the past, like there's just been different like themes, right? So back in like the 60s and 70s, it was like hyper capitalism. You had the president back then posing with the guy who owned Amway, which is
Mm.
the biggest pyramid scheme to exist. But you can't call it that because they got a vouch from the president.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? And he's like, this is the greatest example of American capitalism,
Mm.
right? So, and then you fast forward into today's world, it's it's not like that. It's almost the reverse, where um, the general consensus is we don't like people who are capitalists, or we
Mm-hmm.
don't like people who have things because I don't have things, and you
Mm-hmm.
have things because I don't have things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that allows you to kind of point your energy at specific people,
Yeah.
and you're worried about, again, like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be angry at them for whatever reason. It's just my specific problem doesn't involve them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's
With
easy to put a face on
Exactly,
capitalism. You just pick out the person who has the
because
most
the,
money.
the the person who's telling you to hate that person is the person you should hate.
Mm-hmm. I just think it's interesting as a culture. Um, we really value, uh, high dollar items, success and money and being successful. But then when you get there, you're like demonized for it.
Yeah, everybody hates you.
It's like what are we doing? Like let's pick one. Let's pick a lane. Is it everybody lives in the same house and drive the same car and have the same thing and the same um, opportunities, or is it a free for all? And I think the answer could be somewhere in the middle, which we already do anyway, right? Like
Yeah.
Medicaid is a socialist program, Social Security, um, all these different things. Um, so I mean, it's tough because there's many examples of socialism not working. So I think capitalism
Well,
is
as an
the
as an
best
overall
thing.
concept, yeah,
Yeah,
like it
yeah,
can't function because it doesn't exist in nature. If
mm-hmm.
you can look in nature, and there's always going to be one person who's hungrier than the next.
Right.
So there's no way that we can have the same things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's not socialism. That's a totally different thing.
What do you think about people who say, and we're going off into other topics, um,
We're
us.
gonna get canceled again. It's gonna be we're gonna start a new episode. We're
uh,
gonna be right next door on another show, Rich by
right,
Tuesday.
right. Let's do something else.
Um,
Uh, Maybe we should go into that another time
yeah,
because we'll
I
talk
mean
about
it's I'm being pod bombed by the baby, by Jada.
what's up,
But
baby. We probably want to wrap up anyway.
go see mommy, please. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's I agree that things need to change, and I feel like um the only way it's going to change is if, or what I would like to see is if we can go to school for free
Mm-hmm.
and no property tax.
Mm. I mean, yeah, we're getting creative now. There we go.
Yeah, that's what that's what I would. Okay, everybody, this is Baby Jada.
It's like I'm gonna make it to an episode. What's up, Jada? Jada.
Say hi. All right, now go. It's
you
not a
gonna, you gonna be
telescope,
looking at
baby.
this from 15 years later, like, okay, I'm gonna learn a game from my young day.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was getting to though.
Yeah,
So uh since
yeah,
we've been, PodBomb. Oh, she's leaving. Okay, but that's what I was getting to. Like, I would like to see, either no property tax and free education. I think that would give us,
mm-hmm.
or at least a deferment for a long time.
Yeah, and just maybe even creative business loans. I find it interesting that once the the market is going to crap, that now all of a sudden you can give out PPP loans,
Mm-hmm.
EDIL loans, all these different low interest rate loans and figurable loans. But when we're doing pretty well out here and we're asking for loans, it's nowhere to be found. So some type of business funding, right? Business loan funding, if you do want to start a business. Yeah, they can get real creative on how they owe us because they owe us.
Yeah,
You know, they owe us, um, and we earned it. You know, they owe
yeah,
us and we earned it. So um, I mean that can be a whole nother conversation.
yeah, yeah.
So this is not the reparations episode, but a lot of historical things go into why things the way they are now. You know, and we would be remiss by not mentioning that on some level. So
Yeah. So, like, yeah, um, yeah. So, I mean, I think we covered a lot today,
yeah.
and it went all over the. Well, I wouldn't say all over, but it's just interesting to see how things kind of like
Mhm.
intertwine with each other.
It's like you have to
Um,
give context to things as you're speaking on them. And I try hard. I think we have to do that because sometimes these conversations have no context behind what
well,
you're saying.
but see, okay, I'm so glad you said this is why this works. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you say
Right.
things like that because it's the main theme behind what we're doing here.
Right.
The reason the reason why we're able um to because usually everyone wants you to do because it's popular. Everyone wants you to do some sort of like a business or an entrepreneurial podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and in many ways this is right.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's more than enough of that exists already.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to learn in a classroom setting about a
Right.
specific topic, there's enough of that information that's already out there. I
Mm-hmm.
think our value comes in being able to wrap these concepts and topics around normal conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we can only do that because of our expertise in what we do in real life,
Right.
right? So that's why we try, especially me. I go really hard trying to let people know, or just trying to remove the smoke and mirrors from
Mm-hmm.
everything that we're exposed to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because these guys can't give you that level of context because they don't do this. If they did do it, we wouldn't be having the same discussions every single year. And I think the the main reason why is because the people who are doing it in real life are usually too busy doing it to create a social media campaign.
Right.
You know,
Which has
and
been difficult, man. I don't know. If anything, man, these guys putting up a lot of this content
I don't
is,
even know how they do
I
it.
have to applaud them for that. And it's something we're working on and learning. I'm gonna
Yeah,
take me a social media class. Uh,
yeah.
I'm going to the library though, so
No, I mean,
it,
so that's
which
what
a lot
I'm
of
glad you
people
said
don't
that
even
though.
like use that. I mean,
I'm
it's so many things we could do. Like you can go to the library, right? I have a library card, Los Angeles County, that I actually got in Culver City, and um,
You
the
got a library
access.
card and when was that?
I mean, I'm out here. I'm a West Side dude,
All
so
right,
this is how I
yeah, all
get
right,
down.
okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's so much access that you can get to just by going to the library. And this is not like old school library like in the 90s when we grew up. You go down and check out a book, and all they got is dusty books there that are helpful, but everything's online now. So you have so many
Mm-hmm.
different like for example, you lynda.com, right? They give you access to stuff like that. If you don't know what lynda.com is, like an online learning platform where you can type in what you want to learn and the course is boot up, right? And that's all for free.
Cut the
Um,
check.
so right, I know. Um, but anything like that. So yeah, all this stuff is easily available. And I think we talked about that earlier. People selling free information. So if you want the information, you can go seek it out and get it completely free.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing to sign a short form to get a library card, that's free. If you have an ID, you can have a library card. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my spill on go to the library and read a book.
Yeah, but it's. I'm just glad you said that because that's. I feel like that's the whole value of this podcast is being able to bring context to all these different things that
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like finance, real estate, stocks, and all that. Because just like we were talking about the capital gains laws, right? The
Mm-hmm.
proposed capital gains changes. Well, I can give you an example of where um, of how that doesn't really matter because if I own property, which most people who own wealth in this country own property,
Mm-hmm.
I can still completely avoid that.
Yeah.
So
Still.
until they remove the section 1031 of the tax code.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these other guys, right, who are real estate experts and stuff and taking your money for crowdfund campaigns and buy the block and all that kind of shit,
Mm-hmm.
um, they can't tell you that, but they're going to lead a march about it and tell you how supportive they are of the change or whatever and all that other bullshit. Like they can't tell you the real. So that's where that's where it comes from. All right. I'm sorry. I'm getting pumped right now. I'm getting, I'm getting hyped. Man, it's two things I
Uh,
hate, man. There's liars and thieves. Okay, I hate
so,
liars and I hate thieves. So I get, when
so
I
we
see
always get a
people
chance to
lying,
touch on this.
man, when I see people lying, man, and they know they lying, but they need to pay their bills. Like, I mean, I understand you could be in a situation, and so you got to do what you got to do, but that don't mean I can't feel how I want to feel
Mm.
about you. So this is gonna happen. Like this is gonna be a reoccurring theme. Like
Uh,
every 2 or 3 episodes, you're gonna get a rant about how
it's,
somebody's lying. I'm just telling you right now. So just look out for it.
I think it's just so prevalent in our culture now. We see it all the time. So it's tough not to speak on it when it's part of the conversation. So I mean, I get that. I get that. So along with our rants, I mean, that was actually in the description of what this podcast is about. So along with our
Mm-hmm.
rants, hopefully we give you some type of value along with them and give you more perspective and context on how things work. Um, and we're also superimpose our opinions on it too. So
Yep.
so
Yep.
we probably let's wrap this up. It's probably we tried not to do 2 hours again, but I think we probably have.
Yeah, we're close. We're close. Yeah. So
Maybe what we got to say just happens in 2 hours. Maybe I'm not
yeah.
a 30-minute. Well, that's what happens when you give context. Though it takes time.
Yeah, it takes
You know,
time to break out the history and the backdrop, and
right?
you got to lay out all the dominoes.
Yeah,
It's not just the ABC thing. There's context, there's caveats, there's
right,
you know what I mean, and nobody takes the time to explain it in a way that's like palatable, because it's too
right.
easy to make money off of your ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
It's way too easy for me to make $1 million off of your ignorance,
Yeah.
right? But the thing that stops people from doing that is morality
Mm-hmm.
and ethics, right? But that's
Yeah, and that's why we're not millionaires. That's- no, there's always a way to ethically make some money, and
of course is man, it's way too. I don't want to say easy, right? The journey is never easy, but the
mm,
steps and the process is simple. And so what we want to do is like just be able to like demystify, all these things and break them down in a way that an average person can, begin to implement, a lot of the different practices, and just shift the way you think. Because once
mm-hmm,
you adopt that, then, the accumulation of these things over time, you'll look up 10, 20 years down the road, and you'll be pretty good off. You'll be pretty well off.
mm-hmm,
And you didn't have a jump shot. You didn't have to lie to nobody. You didn't have to packet some random information from Google. Or And I'm not saying that's a problem, because that's just, it exists when you're young, right? That's why I say all this stuff is hustling. Because when we were 19, 20 years old, if someone was to come to me and say, you can make $1 million if you sell 100,000 shirts, I'd be like, cool, where's the box?
mm-hmm.
Where's the box of shirts, right?
Yeah,
But now the internet has, like, if I could sell 5,000 mixtapes out my trunk, the internet is now my trunk.
all right,
So just because you call it digital real estate or whatever, doesn't mean it's not, I'm selling units out the trunk.
right, right.
I'm still hustle man opening in my jacket. And here's the camera link. Here's the vacation link. Here, you know what I
Mm-hmm,
mean? It's still the same. Like, there's nothing new. Nobody is out here creating fire. Nobody's
mm-hmm,
out here inventing fire again. Like, there's nothing new. So don't fall into, or when you get introduced to this type of stuff, hopefully we can bring enough context to the conversation that people learn what questions to ask or what to look out for. Like, that's my ultimate goal, is just to provide that backdrop and that context, so that when you have these discussions with guys who are or people who are claiming to be businessmen and entrepreneurs, or selling you products of some sort, you know how to identify the value in that particular product, or be able to identify if value exists at all,
mm-hmm.
right? Because you know how things work. Because even just the whole concept of entrepreneurship right now is being sold as retirement.
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I
it's
mean?
like
Like,
no 401ks, Roth IRAs are actual retirement.
well, just like the lifestyle, they're selling the entrepreneurial lifestyle as
Yeah,
retirement. Nobody
yeah.
is selling it's the, I can go where I want, I
Work
can
for
do what I
yourself.
want.
Wake up
Yeah,
when you want. Um, you
that's
know,
retirement.
be your own boss.
That's not entrepreneurship.
Work from a beach.
You might be able to do that because you hustling,
Mm.
right? But hustling is seasonal, is it not? Like,
Yeah,
it's
you have to be on to the next hustle. That's why
right.
people join so many different MLMs. And once the
Like, it's
season passed, they on to the
all that
next
is all that
opportunity.
is seasonal, bro. And what's happening right now. And I want to preface this by saying we ain't hating on nobody. If you made some money in the last month, good. Be smart about it, right? Or even the last year or two. Be smart about it, because the only thing that happened is the government came and put trillions of dollars in the streets. and it had to go somewhere. So what you have to think about is, did I do something? Did I develop a skill that was actually valuable, that can last beyond this point? Or did I just happen to be in the street when a money train came?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know some people may not be able to see the forest through the trees or think about it in the long term sense. Like, well, if I made money this year, if I made my first $1 million this year, if I made $5 million this year, I'll always have money. You might
Mm-hmm.
not be able to see in 10 years. You could be broke
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't take the necessary precautions, or just invest wisely and develop the skills and educate yourself properly. It's not always about just making the money. You got to
Mm-hmm.
keep it. And I can tell you,
Yeah.
when you have money, the hardest thing to do is keep it.
Yeah.
Making
That's
money
that's
is not hard.
yeah. That's the main thing. We don't see so many people uh, come up on this fast money, get into houses, get into cars, and
They're not getting into houses because the conversation right now is don't buy a house. It's it's
yeah.
it's buy a car, take your money, take your millions of dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go buy things that aren't worth anything that you can't liquidate, but use them for cash flow.
Right. Right. No one talks about no one talks about the expense in business either. I've heard somebody say, all you got to do is, and I try to change it up some, is you know, you take $100,000 and that's 25,000 or 25,000 dollar down payment on each one. You got four houses, and
Oh
those
yeah.
houses are renting for $1,000 each. You got $4,000. I'm
I
like,
see.
that's not how that works. I mean,
No.
we just skipped over so much, right? We skipped over paying property taxes, management fees, um, maintenance on the house, insurance, fire insurance,
Your interest
so
rate,
many
your mortgage payment, like your
interest,
debt
right? Every
service,
yes, debt
uh,
service. So
inflation.
it's so many things that are skipped over in these examples that are given, made to be simple. And maybe that's the point. Maybe it's to
It
just
is the
get people in
point
the
because
funnel to just
I can't
give as
drive.
little as
I
possible.
I can't drive a Phantom and have a Rolex if I don't sell you something. I didn't
Right.
have it before,
Mm.
right? If I wanted, I didn't have this. I'm selling you the life I want.
It's so part of the culture because people come and ask us, what do you think about such and such? What do you think about this? And I mean, usually they'll get those answers, but they're in private.
I don't tell people. I really don't, because I'll say, and that's why it gets so built up, is because I never get to say
Yeah.
it. I never
Right.
get to say it. I tell them like my piece, but I know like no matter what I say, they're not gonna listen anyway because the marketing is so strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the whole we need to come together and blah blah blah. Um,
It's like I don't want to get in the way of that.
no, I don't want to be. I
Of
don't even
people
want to.
working together.
I don't want that in my life. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's I don't like that. But it gets built up because it gets so close to us, because like we talked about earlier, when you're the professional, you professional anything that people know, they'll come to you with these types of requests and questions, and what do you think about this? How do you feel about this? And then what
Mm-hmm.
you say totally contradicts everything they hear, but your marketing isn't as strong.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the things they have, you know, online. So
Yeah. Wait
that's
till
what
I
it comes
finish my
down to.
library course. And it's about to be on. This internet marketing about to be ours.
So
uh, yeah, I get
I'm
it though.
sorry, yo. I didn't mean to do that. I feel bad now, but it's I just get real passionate about that. I hate people who lie. I hate liars and thieves, and they often go together. So
And sometimes you gotta speak your piece, but with violence.
yeah. So So anyway, I think I think we could just go ahead and
Yeah,
wrap
let's
this
go
up
ahead and wrap us up.
because I ain't trying to
So,
I ain't trying to do another one of those. But I
right.
appreciate you guys for hanging with us. Hopefully, you guys find some value in what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is episode 5. I'm so thankful and so grateful for all the responses that we've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
All the people who share our whole tribe, our
Yeah.
whole community. We got 120 followers and 10 subscribers, but we probably related to most of them. But I
Right.
don't.
Hey, I appreciate everybody's here. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times can you call up 100 friends and have a function, and
That's
work on
true.
some things together? So I appreciate it.
That's true. So
So yeah, let's keep building a community, and we want this to be a two-way conversation. Talk to us, see us in the comments, DM us. We do talk back, and we don't know it all, so that's another thing. I don't want to sit up here and act like we know it all, right? We know
mm-hmm.
something. We know some things, and we want to share those, but we're not the hoarders of all information. So I never want to come off as that. Um, so
I
we,
don't
we
know
do
nothing.
want to
I
hear
don't know
from
shit.
we do want to hear from other people, who are more knowledgeable than us, more experienced, and there's always more things you need to know and learn. So um, yeah, so humbly we thank you again. We still not um, on that sucker stuff, but so we will that will come up and bubble up from time to time. So, but we appreciate y'all being here, and catch us next week
Yep.
on the Rich by Monday podcast. I am one of your hostesses, Dorrance Creighton, and my other hostesses, uh, Jared Wilkins, also known as the Google grad. So thanks again, guys.